Hello students, I am Dr. Kaushik Mukhopadhyay and today we are going to discuss immunomodulators. Immunomodulators actually encompass these three terms: immunosuppression and immunostimulation, and between these two there is a special condition, we can call it immune tolerance. Now mostly our lectures will be concentrated on this immunosuppression. So there are some conditions when we require to suppress the function of immunity, especially in case of autoimmune diseases and in case of transplant. Suppose very solid organ transplant and the patient uh, has to be transplanted from other people any organ, and his immunity will act against that particular organ because it is a foreign body to it. So it will act like antigen and body will make antibody against it and try to destruct the organ, new organ. So we have to check that. So we can use immunosuppressive therapy so that body's immune system do not destroy that immediately. So this is the main reason why immunosuppressions are used, especially in case of autoimmune diseases and for organ transplantation. And also there are some other miscellaneous uses like asthma, where we also require in immunosuppression in specific areas of body. Another part is immunostimulation. So there are some special conditions where we need to boost our immunity, especially in such in today's COVID-19 pandemic. You will see that there are so many immunity booster. I do not know how many of them actually works. Most of them actually do not work. But yes, there are some special conditions and special drug or sometimes some vaccine can be used to stimulate the immunity. So that is immunostimulation. And there is a special condition where the immunity is intact, but in case of special antigen, it does not work against. So it is a state of unresponsiveness. It is a state of unresponsiveness of the human system to substance or tissue that have the capacity to elicit an immune response. So this is immune tolerance, and actually we want to get that state in a very specific condition. So just like I told you that suppose only immunity will be suppressed in a specific against specific antigen, so that will be actually very helpful. Otherwise, if you suppress immunity as a whole, there is always chance of infections. There are so many pathogens around and they will attack our body. So immunosuppression is actually a double-edged sword. So you have to do it in some cases, but if you suppress it more than required, then there will be adverse effects. So before going into details of the drugs that acts against immune system, let's quickly recapitulate basics about immune system. So you know that immune system is mainly consists of two part. One is acquired immunity and another is innate immunity. Now innate immunity are those where the immunity does not have anything have specific in mind. So it, like you can see here that the complement cascade, the phagocytes, and the skin, mucous membrane, saliva, stomach acid, these are all not any, it is not acting anything specific. It stops infection before it enters the body mainly. And even if it enters, if body thinks that it is maybe pathogenic, then it can kill with the help of neutrophil and macrophages. So nothing specific about that. On the other hand, there is acquired immunity, for which the body has to have an experience with the antigen. So once the antigen enters a body tries to recognize it and keeps in mind. So there is a memory involved, and it can be T cell mediated or B cell mediated. B cell mediated antibodies are plasma cells and antibodies are formed, and T cell mediated there is suppressor T cell, helper T cell, and cytotoxic T cell. So this is everything very specific. It depends upon the antigen structure the acquired immunity, and the innate immunity, it is acting against all the pathogens in a similar manner. So this is the basic two differences. Now before going into the immune suppression and the pathology related it, let me tell you a story first, so that it can be used as an analogy so that you can understand how the things goes. So suppose this is a village. It is a very nice village. You can see that sunrise, and a few houses are there, a river is flowing, so it is a very nice village. Now suppose there are some bad people invades in this village and they captures it. So they are bad people here. The local people, those cannot defend against this type of new people who has come and attacked this village, and they had kept it under control of themselves. Now what happens in the next step? A police came. So suppose his name is APC, a police constable. He came, he was passing nearby and he saw that there are some bad people who has captured this village. Then what he does, he cannot eliminate all of them. So what he does, he just attacks any one of them. Suppose he got his chance and pounced on a specific one of them. Suppose he has got this guy. So he fights against it and he captures two things from him. One is his ID card and second, a pistol. These two things he has captured. And now he went back to his headquarters and shows this thing what he has found. He tells the experience to the headquarters. Now this headquarters contains different kind of guy, right? So some of them are very enthusiastic, some of them are not that enthusiastic, they just not activated with these kind of things. They have their own pleasure to time to kill. So there are different kind of person in headquarters. So first he goes and shows this ID card that yes, I have captured this, and a village nearby has been invaded by some criminals. What to do? First he goes to him. Suppose he says no, I am not interested. He then goes to him. He says no, I do not know what are you talking about. He does not even interested to learn or to interested to hear his story. Then he comes with different kind of scanning and departments he is going on. Suddenly one department, this guy, he suddenly recognizes that yes, I know this, I have learned that yes, there may be a group associated with this kind of symbol. Suppose this has a symbol like, I don't know, suppose like a type of symbol is there, and he suddenly recognizes that, and but he is asking that, yeah, are you sure that they have invaded? Then this guy showed another thing, that pistol, that yes, I have captured a pistol from them also. So then he becomes activated. So you can see he becomes activated. Now he has taken the matters very seriously, because he has, number one, he has seen this ID, number two, he has seen this gun also. So now he is very active. What he does, he sends a WhatsApp message to the guy like him. So he recruits many people like him, so that they can organize together and form some kind of resistance against this kind of invasion. What it also does, he sends messages or emails to different kind of departments. Suppose he sends message to some military combat team. He also sends message to a team who operates drone. So they will send some drones and monitor the activity, and the drone can also kill those criminals also. So he activated different kind of departments who can control this type of invasion. And they also did another thing. They think everything he remembers, so he saved this ID and everything in a hard disk, so that from the next time even the satellite image can capture is response like that. So he keeps it in memory. So basically this guy performs 4 tasks. One, he recruits similar person like him. He recruits or he tells some combat efficient army team, and he also tells the drone guy that you should also ready with your system. Now this two goes here and eliminates the enemy. He attacks directly. He is a natural killer, you can say, and he kills with these drones. So this is the full story, and it is eliminated. From the criminals are eliminated from the village, and the villagers are happy again. So this was an analogy. Now you try to find this analogy into our actual body system. So suppose this village is our tissue. So this is host tissue. It may be any host tissue. So this village is any host tissue, and these bad guys, they are pathogens, and they are pathogens. This APC is nothing but antigen presenting cell. So antigen presenting cell. What it does, it kills one pathogen and he takes this ID. This ID is actually the antigen part. This is the antigen part, and this hand, you can call it MHC, major histocompatibility complex, MHC, and it is an MHC2. Okay, it is MHC2, and this is CD80 or 86. So when it collects the part from a host, from a pathogen, he has to go to the headquarter, and this headquarter is nothing but lymph node. So it goes to lymph node and he tells that yes, I have seen these kind of things. Now most of the T cells, these are all T cells. These are all helper T cells. So these are T cells, naive T cells. These are naive T cells with their T receptor, T cell receptor, TCR. They have TCR with them. This TCR tries to match this antigen. So they try to find this ID. Now there is only specific naive T cell can recognize this kind of antigen. So this particular clone will be activated with this particular type of antigen, and now it becomes activated T cell. So now this is activated T cell. So the fact for activation, what we require? First we require the MHC and TCR recognition, and number two, it also requires some co-stimulation, and which is CD80 and 86, and from T cell it is CD28. So this is co-stimulation, and from the analogy, this is a pistol, you can say. So not only one response to keep things under control, it requires two responses, so that there is no false alarm system, so that body has kept two control systems. So if the both are triggered, then it becomes activated, and as soon as it activates four things. First, it goes massive clonal expansion. So by this molecule, and you can call it IL-2. Okay, so there are different interleukins and chemokines are there, all are related to this T cell function. So first, there is clonal expansion. Second, recruitment of natural killer cells. So natural killer cells, recruitment of natural killer cells or cytotoxic T cells. Cytotoxic T cell. There are CD8. These are CD4 type, this is CD8 type. It also activates B cell memory. So this is B cell, which can produce drones, which are nothing but antibody. So this is antibody, and they keep it under memory. So this is called T cell, memory T cells, and there is also memory B cell is also formed. So there is another thing. B cell also keep things in mind. T cell also it will keep, and it will be saved. And from further infection, every response will be very much quickened. So first time infection you require that many kind of steps, but for next infection the body can respond very quickly. So now you can understand all the analogies. Now they will go to the tissue area and they will create an inflammation, and they will also produce antibody to neutralize the pathogen. So taken together, I think this little illustration should help you to remember that how the pathogenesis works and how the immune system works. So this is the basically activation of T cell. The same thing has been represented in here. So you can see this is a T cell from bone marrow, and this naive T cell, whenever it acts with APC, this is antigen presenting cell, and you can see this MHC complex, and there is also some co-stimulation involved. It goes clonal expansion, it forms helper T cell, it also forms suppressor T cells. Now these are suppressor T cell or Treg, you can call it Treg, regulatory T cell. Basically their function is to keep things under control, otherwise there will be massive immune response and more than required cell destruction. So that is not required at all. So that is why there is suppressor T cells will also be formed. That is basically a break, and everything else is the acceleration. It also create memory T cell, and it also create B cell. So you can see here that antigen presenting cell with the help of MHC and TCR, and also with the help of co-stimulation. So this is CD80 or 86 and it is CD28. With this co-stimulation and this interaction, this is the signal 1. It activates the T cell, and once it is activated, there are some intracellular changes goes on. There is formation of interleukin 2, and this interleukin 2 will mediate further inflammation and further proliferation of T cell and other down-regulatory chain of events. So this is all about T cell defense. Now, if you want to suppress this, so basically we are discussing about immunomodulator, or more importantly immunosuppressants. So if you want to diminish this immune response, what are the steps you require? So what are the targets? So first, inhibition of gene expression. So as soon as there is activation of T cell receptor and CD28, there is activation and there is interleukins and other type of chemokines are formed. So you can inhibit this gene expression. That is one way you can inhibit immune response. Second, selectively attack on clonally expanding lymphocytes. So this may be your second target. Third, inhibition of intracellular signaling. So the TCR and MHC complex, it leads to some chain of events. So there is some intracellular signaling which leads to these events. So you will know after a few slides that very important is the calcineurin pathway. So if you inhibit calcineurin pathway, then you will not activate it. So that is the signal transduction phase. You can inhibit that. Neutralization of cytokines and receptors required for T cell stimulation. Like IL-2. If you can neutralize IL-2, then you can inhibit the immunity. Selective depression of T cells and also B cell you can call. So this is another way you can inhibit it. Inhibition of co-stimulation. Yes, because co-stimulation is very important, and if you inhibit this step, that will help. Next, inhibition of lymphocyte and target cell interaction. So these lymphocytes, all they are activated, but if you can inhibit the lymphocyte and ultimate target tissue interaction, it will act as immunosuppressants. And finally, suppression of innate immune cells and complement activation. So this is not part of T cell activation, so that is why it is not shown in this image, but as a whole it can be a target of immune suppressants. So as a whole, the innate immune cells and complement activation will be suppressed. So if we want to inhibit the immunity, whatever reason maybe we are treating a patient of suffering from autoimmune diseases, or we are treating some patient of asthma, or we are treating some patients who have just undergone organ transplantation. Whatever the cause may be or the indication may be, these are the areas you can target to selectively suppress immunity. So now move on to what are the drugs or what are the groups we can use as immunosuppressants. Now until now you have learned what are the parts of immune system that helps us from the pathogen invasion. Secondly, we learned about the targets where we can the target molecules where the immunosuppressants can act. So basically we have 4 kind of immunosuppressants. First one is glucocorticoid. Second, calcineurin inhibitor. Probably these are the most important in respect to the organ transplantation. They are very much effective. Third, anti-proliferative or anti-metabolites. And finally, biologicals. That is monoclonal antibodies mainly. So these are the 4 groups of drugs that can be used as immunosuppressants. Now we will discuss individual drugs, but before that I want to mention a few more key things, key basic things before going into this. First, you remember that as we are discussing about immunity, the correct level or correct therapeutic concentration is very much important. Suppose this is a scale and this area, so this is from 0 to suppose 20 nanogram per ml. So this is plasma concentration of a immunosuppressant, and this is suppose the actual concentration, this area, which is a therapeutic concentration. Now if you achieve less concentration than that, suppose you have achieved with your dosing this concentration, then what will happen? There will be rejection of organ transplant. So your ultimate, the organ you just transplanted, that will be rejected by the body. That means your immunity is not enough suppressed, so it is killing the new organ that he has got, because it is a foreign organ. It considers it as a foreign, so it is rejecting it. So if you give if you get less plasma concentration than required, this is the ideal plasma concentration for suppose this immunosuppression. If you get less than that, there will be less effect. Effect will not be there, so there will be therapeutic failure. We should call it therapeutic failure. But if it is more than that, what will happen? There will be adverse effects, because these are all toxic, and adverse effects like nephrotoxicity. So basically calcineurin inhibitors, the tacrolimus, cyclosporin, all of them are very much nephrotoxic, and they have their specific toxicities also. So you will get toxicity. These are all unsafe drugs. They are not the therapeutic index is not very high. Secondly, the person will be more prone to infection, because you are suppressing immunity. In both the cases, you do not want all of this. So that is why you have to maintain a very narrow therapeutic level for that. So this is called therapeutic drug monitoring, TDM. We have to monitor the drug level. And one of the problem with this kind of immunosuppressants are that their pharmacokinetics also differ, and they are metabolized by cytochrome P450 system, many of them. So the drugs that increase that causes induction or inhibition of the cytochrome P450 system, they will change the concentration of these drugs. It may, if it is inhibited, the cytochrome if it is induced cytochrome 450, the drug like rifampicin or griseofulvin, these drugs, they will cause more breakdown of the drug, more metabolism, and the concentration will decrease, the drug concentration, so there will be chance of therapeutic failure. But if the drugs inhibit their enzyme, cytochrome P450 enzyme like isoniazid or protease inhibitors, drugs like those, they will increase the concentration and there will be chances of toxicity and infection. So this is a problem. And another thing you have to remember, that whenever, suppose how we do TDM. So suppose we have started a drug, this is a pharmacokinetic concept. So we have started a drug, suppose a drug tacrolimus we have started. So it will increase the concentration and it will start to fall. You give the second dose, it will then start to fall, then you give the another dose. So it will take 4 or 5 time to reach the steady state concentration, and then it will go like that. So basically the concentration, so which concentration you will take for, so there is a mean concentration, so this is a mean concentration overall. So this is a mean concentration. So which level you take after the steady state concentration is reached? So will you take the peak concentration, or will you take the trough concentration, or you will take the mean concentration? So usually trough concentration is taken. So that concentration when a new dose is being given. So this is, so after taking the drug, suppose after 10 to 12 hours, you can take the concentration, and usually it collaborates well with therapeutic efficacy and toxicity. So most of the cases we take the trough level. Now these are the basic things before we could go into the specific drugs. So let's proceed with the specific drugs. Now first, glucocorticoids. Now they have broad anti-inflammatory effect. So I have listed here all the mechanism of action. I am not going into much detail about glucocorticoids because glucocorticoids are mainly part of endocrinology system, and the pharmacokinetic, pharmacodynamic and everything is discussed with that section. So only I will just tell you the mechanism of action related to its immune suppression. Glucocorticoids target almost all parts of immunity. So it lies and induce redistribution of lymphocytes. It curtail activation of nuclear factor kappa B. It inhibits the IL-1 and IL-6. It causes down regulation. IL-2 is also inhibited. Activation of cytotoxic T lymphocyte is inhibited, and neutrophil and monocyte display poor chemotaxis. So almost all the part that we show here in this figure, in almost all the part, glucocorticoid has some action. So that is why it is a very broad spectrum, you can tell it broad spectrum immunosuppressant. And sometimes we can use this glucocorticoid, especially this property, that T cells are inhibited from making IL-2 and proliferating. So this part. So for this part, glucocorticoids are also used in the management of lymphoma. So in the because it specifically inhibits the lymphocytes proliferation. So that is why we can use it in lymphoma. Uses: combine with other immunosuppressive agents to prevent and treat transplant rejection. Second, graft versus host disease in bone marrow transplantation. Now, not only host, suppose one person has given a solid organ like kidney to another person who is recipient. Now the recipient's immune system will try to attack the new organ. So this is a normal thing. But sometimes in case of bone marrow transplantation, the transplanted graft is more powerful. So this is called graft versus host disease. So in this particular case, the the immune cells from the transplanted part like bone marrow will attack the host body parts. So this is called graft versus host disease, and glucocorticoids can be used to curtail that GVHD. And this is also used in some autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, psoriasis, asthma and other allergic disorder, inflammatory bowel disease, and acute exacerbation of multiple sclerosis. So to block a fast dose cytokine storm treatment with nivolumab CD3 and a lesser extent to ATG. So whenever you start treatment with nivolumab CD3, that we will discuss in the next class, this particular drug, it is a polyclonal antibody. So if you start this, then after first dose there is chance of cytokine storm. To inhibit them, glucocorticoid can be used. So these are basically immunosuppressive use of glucocorticoids. There are plenty other uses, but today we are only discussing about the immunosuppression part. Of course, you know that glucocorticoids has multiple toxic features. You cannot withdraw it suddenly. You have to taper it off always. And there are some chronic effects like growth retardation in children, avascular necrosis of bone, increased risk of infection, poor wound healing, cataract, hyperglycemia, very important. Patients taking long-term oral glucocorticoid are very prone to hyperglycemia and diabetes mellitus, so any metabolic disorder. Nowadays glucocorticoids are used with these calcineurin inhibitors like tacrolimus and cyclosporine. So the combination helps that you require lowest dose of calcineurin inhibitors and you require less dose of glucocorticoid also. So given together they have some synergistic action. Now moving on to the main important part of today's discussion, that is calcineurin inhibitors. The two important drugs are tacrolimus and cyclosporine. There are many common things between them. They are most effective immunosuppressive therapy. Tacrolimus is probably more efficacious and it is better drug than cyclosporine, slightly better drug, and both of them they target intracellular signaling pathways induced by a consequence of T cell receptor activation. So let me get back to this diagram again. So it acts on here, this calcineurin inhibitor. So signal generation after MHC TCR activation. So this diagram from Goodman-Gilman, it is taken from 12th edition, shows you the mechanism of action of calcineurin inhibitors. Now calcineurin is nothing but a phosphatase. What it does, it activates NF-ATC, that is nuclear factor of activated T cell receptor. So NF-AT is nuclear factor of activated T cell. This NF-AT, when it is phosphorylated, you can see the phosphate is bind with NF-AT here, it is inactive. So this form is inactive. But as soon as this phosphate is released by phosphatase, which is calcineurin is a phosphatase, it frees for phosphate from NF-AT. Now it is free to move into the nucleus. This is cytoplasmic part of NF-AT, and there is a nuclear part. You can see there NF-AT-N and NF-AT-C. So this nuclear factor, cytoplasmic part, it attaches with the nuclear part and it starts transcription of IL-2 gene. So there will be formation of interleukin-2. So that is the main function of calcineurin. What calcineurin does, it has phosphatase action and it targets the NF-ATC. It liberates the phosphate from that. This NF-ATC can go into the nucleus and starts forming interleukins-2 here. Interleukin-2 it starts forming. But this calcineurin, it is not activated on itself. It is activated only when there is TCR and MHC. Here is MHC and TCR. MHC and TCR is activated. MHC activates TCR. Then it forms IP3. This IP3-DAG pathway activates, it causes intracellular release of calcium. This calcium binds with calcineurin, and this calcineurin will activates this NFATC. So this is the step. This is number 1. This is intracellular rise of calcium. Number 2, activation of calcineurin. Then activation of nuclear factor of activated T cell. And finally, number 5 is IL-2 gene. This IL-2 will form ultimately IL-2 protein. This is number 6, and this IL-2 will release number 7, and this IL-2 will then come back, binds with IL-2 receptor, which will actually help in proliferation. So ultimately there will be clonal expansion. I told you about clonal expansion. That is how IL-2 causes clonal expansion by mTOR pathway. Okay. Now, how this cyclosporine or tacrolimus inhibits this calcineurin? This is a calcineurin inhibitor. The cyclosporine or tacrolimus, it binds with immunophilin. Now they have separate receptor to bind. Cyclosporine binds with cyclophilin, and tacrolimus binds with FKBP, that is FK binding protein. So both of them, you can call it immunophilin. They binds with their own immunophilin and inhibits the calcineurin. The FKBP also binds with sirolimus and inhibits the mTOR pathway, mammalian target of rapamycin, which inhibits the proliferation. So let me clear you a bit. So there is 2 immunophilins are there. One is cyclophilin, another is FKBP, that is FK binding protein. Both of them are immunophilins. Cyclosporine binds with cyclophilin, and it inhibits calcineurin. This guy. Here is the calcineurin, it inhibits that. Whereas tacrolimus is another drug which binds with FKBP, which is another immunophilin, FKBP, and inhibits the calcineurin. So basically the binding protein of cyclosporine and tacrolimus are different, but basically they do the same thing. Whereas sirolimus is another drug which binds with FKBP. Let me take another color. So it binds with FKBP, but it does not inhibit calcineurin. What it does, it inhibits mammalian target of rapamycin, mTOR, which is another pathway for cell proliferation. So the binding protein of tacrolimus and sirolimus is same, FKBP, and the function of cyclosporine and tacrolimus are same, that is inhibition of calcineurin. So these are the things you have to remember. So now I think you have understood the mechanism of action of calcineurin inhibitors. They inhibit calcineurin, so the IL-2 is not produced, and as the IL-2 is not produced, there is suppression of overall downstream functions. That is how they act as immunosuppressants. Let's talk about the individual drugs. So tacrolimus, FK506, that was its name. So it was basically an antibiotic. It was a macrolide antibiotic, but it was seen that it is not a very good antibiotic, but it is actually a very good immunosuppressant. And it was isolated or produced by a fungus, Streptomyces succumensis. The pharmacokinetic is very important for immunosuppression, because I have already told you why there should be a very narrow therapeutic window to be operated. If there is increased level, then there will be toxicity. If there is decreased level, then there will be chances of therapeutic failure. That is a problem with these immunosuppressants. And the trial level concentration should be maintained at that level, 100 to 200 nanogram per ml. The T-half of tacrolimus is 12 hours and it is metabolized by CYP3A4. So all the drugs that inhibits or induces the CYP system, that will alter the concentration of tacrolimus. Use prophylaxis of solid organ allograft rejection and graft versus host disease. In both the cases, tacrolimus is used. Adverse drug reaction, nephrotoxicity, very important. Remember, cyclosporine and tacrolimus both are nephrotoxic, but tacrolimus nephrotoxicity is more than cyclosporine. It is also neurotoxic, which is not very common in cyclosporine. And there are some other adverse effects like GI complaints, hypertension, hyperkalemia, but one of the major important role is in hyperglycemia. So glucocorticoids and tacrolimus, they causes hyperglycemia, and cyclosporine, that we will discuss in the next slide, they actually alters the lipid metabolism. Tacrolimus does not alter lipid metabolism, but it alters glucose metabolism. Cyclosporine, it is a cyclic polypeptide produced by another fungus, Beauveria nivea. Pharmacokinetic 20 to 50% bioavailability, and again metabolized by CYP3A4. The same thing applies again with the enzyme inducers and inhibitors. Use clinical indications of cyclosporines are mainly solid organ transplantation, again kidney, liver and heart. And in some cases it can be used in patients of rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis, but it is not the first line drug. The first line drug in rheumatoid arthritis is methotrexate, and if it is not controlled with methotrexate, then you can use alternate DMARDs, like that is disease modifying anti-rheumatoid drugs. You can use biologicals, you can use leflunomide, you can use hydroxychloroquine, and there is another option here like cyclosporine. Adverse effect, nephrotoxicity. Again, nephrotoxicity is important here also, but more importantly, it causes hyperlipidemia and hirsutism, and also gum hyperplasia. So these are the important adverse effect which is not shown by tacrolimus. This hirsutism, hyperlipidemia and gum hyperplasia, that is mainly important for cyclosporine. And an important drug-drug interaction is sirolimus aggravates cyclosporine induced renal dysfunction. So it should not be used together, and if at all required, it should be monitored very closely. Next is sirolimus. Sirolimus, I have already discussed that it binds with FKBP, the same protein that binds with tacrolimus, but it inhibits mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, and it ultimately causes inhibition of proliferation after the IL-2 binds with IL-2 receptor. So it is slightly downstream from the action of calcineurin inhibitors, and you require a loading dose of 3 times of maintenance dose to maintain a steady state. Prophylaxis of organ transplant rejection, and at risk of calcineurin inhibitor associated nephrotoxicity, so that is why it is not used in with mainly cyclosporine. Adverse drug reaction, dose dependent increase in serum cholesterol, and lymphocyte can happen. Cyclosporine and sirolimus interact, we have already discussed. There is another drug, it is very close to sirolimus, that is everolimus. It is chemically and clinically related to sirolimus, but it has pharmacokinetics are different. Main difference is shorter T-half, so you do not require high loading dose. There is another use of sirolimus, that is it is used in drug eluting stent. Drug eluting stent. So I think you know about the stent that is used for PCA as a management of myocardial infarction. So sometimes to maintain the permeability, or sorry, not, I should say not permeability, to maintain the patency of the stent, sirolimus can be used. So, there is two kind of stent. One is bare metal stent, that is mainly used, bare metal stent. But the problem with using bare metal stent for PCA purpose, that there is fibrosis over this bare metal, and ultimately there is blockage of, suppose you are giving a coronary artery and you have used a stent here. So you have in here you have used stent. So coronary artery, if you use stent here, then if you use bare metal stent, what can happen? There may be fibrosis over there is proliferation of cells, fibrosis happens. So ultimately the stent purpose of the coronary artery again becomes narrowed. So that to prevent this cell formation, we can use this drug-eluting stent, and sirolimus is a drug that can be used. So that is another use of sirolimus. Next is azathioprine. This is an anti-metabolite. It is not calcineurin inhibitor. The sirolimus is also another anti-metabolite, and azathioprine is an anti-metabolite. What it does, it inhibits proliferation, but by a fraudulent mechanism. So it is basically clipped into 6-mercaptopurine. This is the active form of azathioprine, and it is incorporated into the DNA. This 6-thio-IMP, first it is converted into 6-thio-IMP, and then it is converted into 6-thio-GMP. But body cannot differentiate the 6-thio-GTP. It is incorporated into DNA, and as soon as it is converted into DNA, the DNA cannot replicate. So that is how it inhibits the replication. Now cell proliferation is inhibited. Now the problem with this kind of drug is that there is very high chance of bone marrow suppression. There is high chance of bone marrow suppression because you are inhibiting the proliferation of all kind of cells, not just specific T cell clone. So you are causing a very high chance of pancytopenia. So this is a problem. Next is increased susceptibility to HSV and hepatotoxicity, alopecia, GI toxicity, pancreatitis. These are all adverse effect of azathioprine. But this is not a first line drug, but we can use it for organ transplantation rejection when it is not controlled by calcineurin inhibitors or there is some contraindications, and in case of severe rheumatoid arthritis. In that case, we can also use azathioprine. TF is 10 minutes, but it has active metabolites. So it is converted into 6-mercaptopurine, which is the main active metabolite. Next is mycophenolate mofetil. It is inosine monophosphate dehydrogenase inhibitor. Now IMP dehydrogenase, it is an enzyme in the de novo biosynthesis of GMP. So what it does, it converts inosine monophosphate into xanthosine monophosphate. But mycophenolate mofetil, it is a drug. The active form is mycophenolic acid. So you give this salt mycophenolate mofetil, it goes inside, converted into mycophenolic acid, and it inhibits IMP dehydrogenase, which in turn ultimately inhibits the GMP, so that the proliferation of T cell and B cell are inhibited. They are the rapidly proliferating cell, so their multiplication is inhibited. Again, it has T-half of 10 minutes, but it has active metabolite like mycophenolic acid. So the T-half with mycophenolic acid is actually 16 hours. The MFF is indicated for the prophylaxis of transplant rejection, and it can be used in combination. It is usually not used alone. It is always used in combination with glucocorticoid and calcineurin. And there is an off-label use, is SLE. Adverse drug reaction, gut, GI tract, there is maybe problem, because again, why this all of these has GI tract, because GI tract also contains highly proliferating cells, and any drug that inhibits the rapidly proliferation, just like anti-cancer drug, there should have also some GI tract adverse effect. And hematology, pure red cell aplasia and leukopenia. So this is due to bone marrow suppression again. And congenital anomaly can happen if it is given to a pregnant mother. Other antimetabolites are methotrexate, cyclophosphamide, chlorambucil. So mainly they are anti-cancer drug. I am not going into much detail about them. So these are the different steps of immunity where different drugs can act. So first is antigen and T cell receptor. So in that area, Muromav CD3 will act. We have not discussed it yet. This is a part of tomorrow's discussion, or I will discuss in the separate class the monoclonal antibody, the whole thing. Then T cell receptor to activated calcineurin. This is inhibited by cyclosporin and tacrolimus. So inhibitor of calcineurins. Then in the next phase, dephosphorylation of NF8 is happen, IL-2 gene promotion happen, then interleukin 2. This interleukin 2 to interleukin 2 receptor, there is a specific IL-2 inhibitors like basiliximab and daclizumab. Again, these are all monoclonal antibodies. They are all part of targeted therapy. We will discuss it in the next class. Next, after the IL-2 receptor, the binding of IL-2 with IL-2 receptor, there is mTOR pathway is required for proliferation, and that is inhibited by sirolimus. You can see here sirolimus that inhibits. And after that, finally cell proliferation happens, where this mycophenolate mofetil, azathioprine, methotrexate, chlorambucil, this kind of drugs inhibits this step. So these are the areas where we can inhibit. So these are the total how immunity is maintained and how the different steps of immunity can be targeted as a mechanism of immunosuppressive drugs. And this is a diagram. The same thing, it is given in a nice intracellular pathway like diagram. It is taken from Goodman-Gilman 30th edition. So you can see the antigen, this is antigen presenting cell APC, and this is the MHC, it is MHC2, and CD886. Now it represents the antigen to TCR. The TCR recognizes it and it initiates a pathway of calcineurin. This calcineurin causes dephosphorylation of nuclear factor of activated T cell, which ultimately produces IL-2 gene translation of IL-2, IFN and TNF, different kind of mediators are there. So cyclosporin and tacrolimus will inhibit this step. And this will ultimately, in a separate cell, it will increase the cell proliferation. So we can inhibit it by inhibitor of mTOR, sirolimus, and if it goes in the downstream pathway, we can give some inosine monophosphate dehydrogenase inhibitor like mycophenolate mofetil, or some fraudulent drugs which will incorporate itself into the DNA and act by counterfeit mechanism, is like azathioprine. So this drug will cause decreased cell proliferation. And there are some other targeted therapy which will act against CD28 like these drugs. And there is IL-2 receptor inhibitor like daclizumab and basiliximab, and CD52 inhibitor alemtuzumab. These are all the drugs, and also INF inhibitor, that is infliximab, adalimumab. These drugs are part of monoclonal antibody, and we will discuss in the next session. So this was all about today. Hopefully you have got an idea that how immunity works and how we can target different specific areas of acquired immunity, and how the different drugs can be used for the management of graft versus host disease or autoimmune disorders, and in case of prophylaxis of solid organ transplant rejection. Thank you for your patient hearing. I will see you in the next class. Thank you.